I created the event horizon to reach the stars. But she's gone much, much farther than that. She tore a hole in our universe, a gateway to another dimension. A dimension of pure chaos. Pure evil. When she crossed over, she was just a ship. But when she came back, she was alive. Look at her, Miller. Isn't she beautiful?
Your beautiful ship killed its crew, Doctor.
Wow.
They're not your crew anymore. They belong to the spoilers. This is Event Horizon Spoilers.
Hey now.
Hey everybody, this is your host Stevie recording, and today we are going to be recording, honestly, like one of my favorite bad movies of all time, if that makes sense. We're going to be doing the Sam Neill starring, Laurence Fishburne starring, and Pap, who directed this?
Paul W.S. Anderson. 2 movie clubs.
Andersons.
Paul W.S. Andersons.
There we go. And he directed Mortal Kombat, correct?
Yes. 2 movie
Not
clubs.
Boogie Nights or There Will Be Blood.
He did direct Magnolia, though, which is confusing.
That does make a lot of sense.
Which, it's weird because the name Paul Anderson is not Paul W.S. Anderson in the credits of this. It just says Paul Anderson. So, like, really, who's to say which one directed this?
Is there a different Paul Anderson?
Just a third?
Is there like Paul Thomas, Paul
but they were all of
W.S.,
them
and
deceived
Paul Anderson?
for another Paul Anderson was made. Also, I feel like we're doing this movie just for Derps, Patreon friend.
Yeah, and also, I mean, maybe a spite, recording, because Corey and Brad had to do a podcast without us in secret. It was very strange.
Derbs didn't pay for another pick or anything, but he just messages us such nice messages so often. He deserves it, boys.
And he's got the cool profile picture, which he deserves as many picks as he wants, just for the Return to Paradise pick.
And I was really happy to see that message from Derbs, because Pap, you and I have been talking about this movie forever.
You said it scarred you as a child, right? Like, this is
as a child, it did scar me as a kid. I mean, we're talking I always talk about whatever movie was on in the house. Typically when my mom and sister were out doing something, it was pretty much what Dad wanted to watch. And at some point it was Event Horizon, and it scared the living shit out of me. And I mean, is this your guys' first time watching this movie?
Yes.
I mean, I've seen Alien and I've seen The Shining. And I've played the game Dead Space, so I feel like I've been here before. But yeah, I've never seen this movie before.
I think there's a large group of us out there that saw this movie way too young, whether it be sleepovers or dads who didn't care about what their children watched. This movie scarred me as a young kid.
You might just think it's a gritty little sci-fi tale. You don't normally associate space, unless it is Alien specifically, with gore, maybe especially up to this point. But Stevie, we haven't gotten into the specifics of the images that are included in this film yet, but it's very easy to see why you would be scarred if you saw
Dude,
the full version of this. It's insane.
You're talking young kid, VHS. And
Stevie goes to Latin mass and just starts crying in the back.
Dude, I don't mind incantations at all during mass. I was at mass this past Wednesday, and I don't mind that at all. But for some odd reason, Latin in movies scares the shit out of me. And I think it's rooted back to this movie. I am a firm believer in that. Because, I mean, there's many times, if I hear Latin in a movie, I know it's a scary language if it's said in a scary voice, but it does extra to me for some odd reason, and I blame this movie.
I've read, listened about, seen enough movies, listened to podcasts about bad stuff happening to people. And if you hear Latin, as soon as I heard Latin in this movie on the intercom, I was like, devil, demon. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like demon. It's a demon.
I just like that there's a fluent like Latin translator on board the ship. Like, thank God for Mr. Malfoy over there.
Well, maybe they brought like Latin back in the schools in the future. You know what I mean? They said, hey, at one point it was dead. In the future, they're bringing it back. And this guy just dug deep and very fluent in Latin, shockingly.
Go on. I thought it said liberate me. Save me.
Stevie, speaking of scary parts, before we get into opening introduction, I don't know what we're doing in this pod, but there's a most rewound part. They show what that is on the YouTube version of this.
Yes.
And it is a very, very scary part, and I'll let you know what that is when we get to it later on in the pod. Okay, Stevie?
Like most rewound?
It has like little
most
stars and
replayed.
says most replayed. Yeah. Every YouTube video has it, but including like movies that you rent on YouTube.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah.
I noticed that.
I'm curious now because I didn't watch it on YouTube.
I rewound that part. And in rewinding it, it said most replayed.
Josh, I did the exact same thing. It was like one of the only times I rewound. I was like, son of a bitch, they got me too.
This is a great teaser for later in the pod, Pap. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Well, for those of you who aren't going to watch it on YouTube, I'll do some heavy lifting for you. It's on Paramount Plus if you're subscribed to that. And no commercials, which is great. But I guess my opening question to you boys, I know I'm a little late on this. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. We'll go, Pappy, you go first, then Josh. If you could pick a way to die in the outer realms of space, how would you want to go?
The outer realms?
Right?
Like Neptune?
In space, bro. Just in space.
Okay.
You've left the atmosphere.
This is Pappy, recording from Kalamazoo, Michigan. If I had to die in the outer realms of space, it would be pretty badass to be the first person to be killed by some form of extraterrestrial life, right? Like, be that
would be awesome.
A space disease or a xenomorph or something, like, just to be like, yeah, I was like the first one who got it. You know, you're going down in the history books. At that point, you're the first contact. So
who are you talking to in this scenario? Are you in the hell realm telling that to your buddies?
No. Put a little statue of me back on Earth and be like, he didn't know. He just tried to fold space time. It was a totally innocent quest, and he paid the ultimate sacrifice.
It would be pretty amazing to show like an alien creature statue like holding you up by your neck. And there's like a plate in the bottom, like with your name
it's like
on
the Predator,
it.
like my whole spinal cord's there here. In memorandum, Pappy Malcolm. No, that would be how I would want to go. I mean, everything else seems fucking terrible, right? Like, there's no great ways to die.
Yeah.
In deep space.
This is Josh from Goshen. If I had to die in the outer realms of space, I think I'll steal a little bit from Interstellar here. I'll choose first person to die by black hole. And I think worst case scenario and most likely scenario is you just get ripped apart immediately. And then best case scenario is that I'll get to like talk to my daughters through books on their shelves for a couple decades or something like that. So like either way you slice it, I feel like
just flinging dust around.
Yep. Messing with watches and stuff.
One of your kids though is Timothy Chalamet. So unfortunately you have that. Is it worth it?
It'd be such a disappointment.
This is Stevie. This is going to sound like really boring. I would probably just oxygen out on a spaceship or get space dementia. And that's how I would probably go. Just because, like...
You want to suffocate to death? Is that what you're saying? Oxygen out?
Well, any other way, I'd probably suffocate. Like, dying in space, Pap, I feel like is a lot of suffocation. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather, like, suffocate just... I don't know. On a ship with just flickering lights and, you know, fuses blowing up here and there. I wouldn't want to go out in like the cold of space and just have my lungs like torn apart and frozen.
Just crash into something.
You're in the...
What do I crash
You're
into?
in the outer realms. There's not a fucking McDonald's you can drive into. Like,
yeah, like what am I crashing into?
Just the nearest outpost.
I mean... Like the U.S. were the first to land like on the moon. The Russians like were the first to land in the moon. Would you want me to like go that way, Josh?
What do you mean by in the moon?
They tried going to the moon and they crashed right into it and died.
Is that true?
Yes. That's why the Russians are the first to land in. The United States are the first to land on.
USA.
Fucking
we did
Ruski
it.
bastards. Anyway, we did it. That's right. Been sticking it to him for over 60 years now. So, Josh, go ahead and kick us off with this movie. I feel like it's kind of by the numbers now. Maybe even a little by the numbers then, but how does this movie start off?
Oh, man. What is the exact scene? So I think the general gist is that
Yeah, you can start with the gist and do exact scenes.
Yeah, we're like 30, 40 years in space, and we have, as a species, spread out amongst the stars, right? So we got all this new technology. We're trying to get to new planets, and Event Horizon is the name of... It's basically like the Titanic of space, right? It's the biggest, most technologically advanced, unbreakable, big-ass spaceship, and it's been lost for like 7 years. So that's kind of like the backstory, and Sam Neill is... he's kind of the guest aboard this ship, right?
We don't know why Sam Neill's there. And I'll say this too, for a 90-minute movie, this like first act is a pretty slow burn, but I fucking love it. Like I love seeing the space technology. Like I know there's like 2 opening text crawls or whatever, but just like
A lot of text.
I don't know, like seeing them being put. Yeah, I've seen them being put in like suspension. Like there's just enough like little jump scares kind of to keep it interesting. Like I don't know. I really like this first act where they're setting up the space, the future of space, the near future.
Stevie, can you tell me a little bit about Sam Neill's character? Because, like I said, this is my first time watching this movie. Is he like an evil scientist from the start? Is his arc supposed to be
No.
he becomes evil? I feel like there's a little bit of like, even from the start, he's kind of like misleading them a little bit or something, isn't he?
He is. He's purely misleading them, yeah. So, I mean, in theory, like Sam Neill, not in theory, I think in reality, Sam Neill's character, Dr. Weir, did not give a flying fuck about anybody who was on that ship, anybody who was on the Lewis and Clark. He just wanted to go make sure that his baby was okay, which was that gravitational wave thingamajig. And I think he was a narcissist from the start, just for the simple fact that, like, this is a dude that alienated his wife so badly that she ended up killing herself because he spent, like, all of his time at work or, like, into his work. And I think at a certain part of his character's arc, he was terrified of, like, what he had created. But by then it was too late because the ship had taken over.
There's one shot of Sam Neill in the beginning, and I don't know if you guys remember this. Like, I don't know if he's like outside of Mars, but he's like in some kind of space station thing, and the camera's spinning, and the space station's spinning, and it's made me the most nauseous of any shot I've ever seen in a movie. I had to look away from the TV.
I hated when you're like you're looking at the ship, like the grid ship.
Yes.
And it's just rotating and rotating and rotating. That was obnoxious. I did not like
I had to look away. It was bad.
Carbon dioxide can produce hallucinations, impaired judgment.
God damn it, DJ, it was not a hallucination. Doctor, you were in the duct. You must have heard something. You must have seen something.
I did. About an hour ago, I saw my son lying on the examination table. And his legs were
Yes, if you don't mind my saying
crawling.
so. It sounds a little like shock. Could it be that you're traumatized by seeing the body
No,
of
excuse me, no!
Stevie, when you were calling him a narcissist, it kind of clicked into place. One of the scenes that I thought was confusing and kind of annoying. One of the crew members starts having like a vision of like her child or something, and it's caused by the gravitational pull, and we'll talk about that. But like when she comes back in a room, Sam Neill gaslights her and tells her that she's like crazy and she didn't see anything, and tells the rest of the crew that it means nothing, right? And I think he probably like he wants to be the only one like fucking with it or something. He doesn't want to believe it's like, I don't know, he's the chosen one for it from the beginning in my mind. And I was hoping, as like a very early Stevie question on this pod, you might be able to say, like, was he really like kind of the devil from the beginning? Just it was like hidden a lot better.
I think there's a backstory somewhere in there where this had happened before and Dr. Weir knows about it and thought he could fix it and thought he had it fixed where they went again. And I think this is like second time, like, you know, it's not my fault type deal. And I think like a part of like in the movies, like when he's coming to grips with, yeah, I create a gateway to hell. That's like that's my name now.
Is it kind of like The Shining in that?
It is The Shining.
That the ooze from the black hole or whatever, this like hell like being is like, does it recognize that Sam Neill has these like workaholic tendencies and this attachment to the event horizon, and it can therefore like hijack him, right? Like in the same way, like in the Shining movie where Jack Nicholson was like a little bit violent, you know, before he gets to the Overlook Hotel, and then he goes like full out violent. Like, is that why it like chose him? You know what I mean? To embody it.
Well, that and probably like plot armor too. You know, like Sam Neill's your main character. You're not going to pick like Justin to like, you know, be the evil one.
Well, it does inhabit Justin or something for a while, doesn't it? Like possesses him.
Yeah, because he does like wake up and did it like, I know it's like a gruesome like death, but did anybody love that sequence like as much as I do? I love the the death sequence.
Poor baby bear.
Absolutely love it.
He doesn't die,
dude.
He lives.
Yeah, okay.
He's in the Bacta tank at the end.
I mean, that's the weird thing, right? Because like on one hand, you have Sam Neill explaining the concept of like folding space-time and like wants to feel super authentic.
Christopher Nolan gave that same exact.
It's from A Wrinkle in Time. It's from A Wrinkle in Time.
I know.
Like, I mean, like a lot of people
I know
like, done it, but it's like I don't know. And then like later on, it's like things just don't make sense at all. Like it abandons that like commitment to reality in some way. You know what I mean? Like,
what do you mean? Just like the hell part, or
I mean, just the fact that like if you have a hole in a spaceship, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, there's not like you can't like hold on to a grate with your fingertips. You know what I mean? And like pull yourself around. Like it's a vacuum. Like you're instantly getting sucked out. Like there's not even
a demon can't.
Well, a space demon can from hell, but not like.
That should have been the name of the movie, Space Demons from Hell. Then Stevie wouldn't have accidentally seen it when he was a kid.
Dude, they really should have labeled it something, or like put just like a, you know, just like a demon outline of the stars for like the cover. That'd have been nice to say like, hey, this is a really scary movie for a young child. Maybe don't watch it. But like, you know, I'll say this a lot. This isn't the greatest movie ever, and that's fine. But I thought the acting between Larry Fishburne and Sam Neill was really great.
What do you think you're doing, Doug?
You wanted to know where the ship has been. So now you'll find out.
Like the tension between them, you could definitely tell it was like really great actors trying to work around like a bad script. Don't you think?
The script is not good. Like at one point,
no, it's not.
I think Larry Fishburne says to Sam Neill, like, "Hey, mister, don't walk away from me," or something like that. It's like something you say to like a,
love
like
that
a
line.
child.
Love
it's
that
bizarre.
line.
Like, but
for people who haven't watched the movie and are listening to this pod, can you guys kind of explain why those two characters are at odds? Because that's a big plot point throughout the movie.
So we talked about Sam Neill. This character's name's Weir. He's the creator of the Event Horizon. He's not part of this crew. There's a regular crew who does space rescues. They specialize in space rescues.
They're the Coast Guard.
Also, it's like an international crew a little bit, right? Like the one guy has like an Australian accent. There's like a British accent, I think, thrown in there too. Laurence Fishburne, though, is the captain of the space rescue crew. So Sam Neill's the Event Horizon expert. Laurence Fishburne's got to get his squad together to go check out like where the Event Horizon has now been spotted somewhere. And I don't know, like there's also like some NSA references. Stevie, did you catch that? Where it's like the NSA has labeled this all code black. Like it's still like the near future, right? This is still like the United States space program to some extent, which I found interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like the other thing is too, I mean, Laurence Fishburne's like character, which is like true to form as the captain, is like all about his crew. And, you know, these people were on leave, and because of Dr. Satan here coming on board, they have to go to Neptune. And Laurence Fishburne like doesn't know why. And then when he finds out, you know, he's kind of on board.
Not
and
impressed.
Then when he starts seeing and then when he starts seeing like Dr. Weir's behavior, he's like, hey, something's not right here. And you can tell Laurence Fishburne doesn't like that ship from the jump. Rightfully so.
Not as much as the Australian guy, though. The Australian guy's very anti the ship from the beginning.
Is probably my favorite single part of the movie. When there's just like the first signs of shit being like spiritually bad. And he's like, I don't need any scientific explanations to know that I need to get the fuck out of here. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, Sam Neill's like constantly rationalizing things, but like he's also playing with this like realm of science and space that like we just have no concept of, right? So he's still trying to like relate things to like
correct
concepts that he understands, like, oh, it's just like the temperature in the cabin changing, which is why there's like a ghost hand punching through the metal door. It's like, no, dude, it's the hand of hell. Clearly. I will say this too, Stevie, like
there's a devil horn coming through that. It's just the change in temperatures.
Pitchfork coming through the thing. Yes, if it decompresses at just the right spots, it'll form this triad. I don't know, like you said it's a bad script. I think that it's
not a bad script. It's
derivative.
I think the framework is lazy. Yeah, it's a little what's that?
Trite?
What's that word where you kind of just trite, yeah, kind of copying, but not like outright. It's yeah. Anyway, it's not a great script. I mean, even Philip Eisner would tell you, yeah, I watched The Shining one day, I thought I should put it in space. I mean,
you guys though, the high concept of us trying to like travel through the cosmos and stumbling upon like actual real hell and being this explicit
it's
about
a great
it.
idea.
That as a high concept for a script. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a copycat, is it? That's not copying off Aliens. That's not what you guys are talking about, right?
No.
What specifically? That's what I'm getting at. What specifically is like the Shining alien ripoff to you guys? Like what's the key markers for that?
Well, there's a giant vat of blood that encapsulates an entire room that floods in slow motion, for one. The idea that, the ship is alive and is a being.
The physical structure is against you, right? Like,
yeah, the physical structure sending visions that aren't there but might be there. The ending of just
descent into madness of a person.
Yeah.
I think the first 30 minutes though are like very alien, and I think the production design is very alien, right? Like even kind of like the uniforms and shit.
I thought the production design was amazing.
Okay, yeah, it looks amazing. It looks great.
It looks amazing.
They do kind of have like alien-y uniforms, right? Like the brown kind of like, I don't even know what you call it, like vests and like long sleeve, like not army fatigues, but like kind of.
The way Laurence Fishburne sits in his like lazy boy captain's chair throws me off though. It's connected to the ceiling like the mantis at Cedar Point or something.
Dude,
the mantis.
At one point he needs to leave the hole or whatever it's called, the bridge. I guess he needs to leave the bridge, and he has to spin his chair all the way back around to the 12 o'clock position.
Dude, yeah, it's like Austin Powers, Dr. Evil shit.
It's so funny.
All I asked for was a frickin' rotating chair, okay?
No, Pap, I'm with you though. Like the production design is fantastic, especially like in the gravity room or whatever where that giant sphere is. That looks great. The room where Laurence Fishburne and Dr. Trauma talk, and there's like that white tile floor and like it's kind of green lit in the back. I thought that looked fantastic. There's a lot of good production design in this.
The only thing I think didn't hold up is some of the CGI. Like a couple times, like the ships don't look great from the outside. That spinning shot made me sick. Like some of the flames look pretty crappy, but this, like when I'm watching this looks like an expensive movie. Like especially in this first part,
Yes,
it doesn't look cheap at all. The core itself looks great.
How does Sam Neill's body and core look to you? It's pretty decent in this movie. Show him off a bit.
Okay, listen, everyone looks good if you pull your pants up significantly over your belly button. Like,
Dude, he's got the Kylo Ren pants on.
The Fred Mertz.
That square body
the Fred
going.
Mertz pants from I Love Lucy, dude. His pants are up to his nipples, basically.
That's a way to look good, though. I don't know if everyone can pull that off, Pap.
He's barrel chested. He's a good looking guy. I'll give him that. Also, does every space movie have some kind of like you have to hibernate to get where you're going? Like these guys are only going to sleep for 50 days.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
Does it?
Yeah, but they're traveling super fast.
And it's because you have to be asleep in this chamber, otherwise your brain would get squished by the pressure of going
30 G's. Yeah, you'd die in a heartbeat.
Could you imagine how rested you would feel? Factory reset, bro.
50 days of hibernation doesn't sound bad.
Did you guys hear that Aaron Rodgers, you know how he's going to do like 4 days in dark deprivation?
Dude, it's such horse shit.
No,
he went to a hotel underground.
And he only lasted 2 days.
Well, there's something to that, though. It's actually a really dangerous thing to do.
It's solitary confinement.
I'm not saying he's a wimp, but like, if you're gonna do something like that, why even like talk about it? I just think that's like.
I think the record is 6 months. That's like the
Stevie,
record.
Explain what Aaron Rodgers did, like for the audience.
Okay, so like there was that thing like 6 or 7 years ago where JJ Watt was like, "Yeah, I go to my cabin during the off season and." I really just, rough it like Rocky and Rocky 4. And it's like...
I write an album like Bon Iver in the cabin in the woods.
Yeah, it's like that cabin is actually a 10,000 square foot mansion. You have like 6 kitchens and personal chefs and Wi-Fi everywhere. It's not a cabin. That's a house that's made out of like lumber on the outside. That's all that is. And Aaron Rodgers, like, I'm going dark or whatever. The man went to a fucking hotel underground.
He he's deciding if he wants to play football anymore. He's kind of an elderly quarterback at this point. Does he want to risk the injuries? Does he want to come back for the glory, try to win another championship? And he tells everybody on Earth he's going to make his decision when he's doing dark deprivation for 4 days.
He's such a bitch.
So weird. Why mention that? That could be part of your process, but
he thought he was going into like the hibernation chambers in this movie, but he was actually going to the core, the black pit of hell.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but like, I mean, I hope like Rogers doesn't start like a fad. Like, that's a really dangerous thing to do, in my opinion. Like, when you go into dark deprivation like that, it's not good for your brain or your body.
I remember I toured...
Like, good for him, but, like, that is a very, like, not healthy thing to do.
I think he went in there and was in there for, like, 24 or 26 hours, and he had some way to, like, check the time. So he checks it, and he's only been in there for, like, 10 minutes. And he's like, fuck. and he's like, fuck.
He turned on his cell phone, and I just, like, blinded him.
It's like, Icarus, turn it down to 3.1%, please.
Because if I remember correctly, like, I think the record for actual dark deprivation is like 6 months. And that guy like wasn't right for a long time after that.
What were you going to say, Pat? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I just remember I toured like Alcatraz. Like, we went to San Francisco, probably like the same year this movie came out. And there was a guy there who had spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. And he ripped a button off of his shirt, and the game that he would play for like days and days on end is he would like flip the button somewhere in the cell and just try and find it as fast as he could. You know what I mean? Like, that's like how crazy you go when you don't have any light or anything like that. So this is the kind of thing that Aaron Rodgers is going through, like, mentally in this Hobbit hut, like find the button type games.
How long did he last?
2 days.
Pretty weak.
If you say it's going to be 4 and you say it on Joe Rogan or whatever, you better make sure it's damn well 4.
Well, I wonder what his rhythm is at right now, just doing it for 2 days.
Speaking of waking up early, are those jump scares, Stevie, too much? Like, there's a couple times in this movie.
There's jump scares?
In this movie, 100% there's jump scares.
What? Stevie.
Jump scares?
Yes.
No. Creepy visuals?
No, dude,
maybe.
there's like times where the movie gets loud, like extremely loud from extremely quiet. Like, I think one of them is like when he's waking up, like fake waking up the first time.
Yeah.
Like,
one of them is when he's shaving and like these blinds go up. One of them is when like a glove is floating and it like taps someone on the shoulder.
Oh, the Dead Space photo? That's where I think Dead Space got their cover art from, is like the floating hand out in space.
Dead Space saw this game. And for those of you who don't know, Dead Space is a PlayStation 3 era game. It was like the exact same plot of this, right? Like, they go save a ship.
It's a little different.
Zombies versus hell.
Dead
demons.
wife, visions, crazy monsters. The ship is alive. It's a whole thing. We eventually go from the Lewis and Clark to the event horizon. Stuff goes to just go a little haywire. I don't know if you guys felt this way or not. Did you guys feel like every death was saved for like the last like 20 minutes? It just like it all happened back to back to back to back to back really fast.
There's a lot of crew to keep track of, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like a couple of them I kind of forgot like where they were at points in time.
Yeah,
and you're right. Like, it feels like a lot of those deaths like do kind of roll out. Like, do we get any like what's the kid's name? The Justin, Mr. Justin. Yeah. Like, we should probably talk about like his like death first with the core or whatever. This is a Stevie question.
Die.
What? Oh yeah, you're right. He doesn't die. I'm not saying he's going to be able to come back and be normal either, but he doesn't die at this point. Stevie, what do you think he experiences when he goes through the core?
Hell.
Just like Jesus did. He's literally bungee jumping through hell, Pappy.
Yeah.
What is hell? Like, what is it? Like,
see, that's where like I kind of,
because it's not like the South Park hell, right? Like, there's not like flames and like Saddam Hussein and like,
I don't know, man. There's a lot of Latin in blood. I don't know.
It is kind of like that, actually. What do you mean? Like, it's people getting physically in this movie.
There's people like intestines getting ripped out by like other people while they're laughing and screaming. It was kind of
like fast like shots of worms too, but it's like a lot of quick cuts. Hell is just a bunch of quick cuts of creepy things.
Part of me really wishes that like when it came to that like time like space terror, that like the beacon signal was like sent from like the original crew back to themselves, if that makes sense. And it was kind of like an endless loop of like what hell would be.
Oh shit, that's good.
Like that to me is like a lot more fun than like another crew finding another crew. I think like having a signal like go back like pretty much through space time to like what sent them out originally. It'd almost be like what came first, the chicken or the egg. That to me would be a lot of fun.
That'd be cool if they like, if everything's breaking down and there's a moment of hope where they're like, hey, we can get this signal off and we didn't know we could, and maybe we'll get saved. And kind of as like they're pressing enter, the realization of like, this is the signal that we heard.
This is the signal that we got, and we sent it to ourselves.
Send the signal in Latin. Oh shit!
Like that to me that's fun, but you know that's hindsight 2020 type stuff. I don't know about how you guys feel about that.
I think in this movie, what it's saying is that hell is a real physical place, and that if you could time travel in the way that Sam Neill describes, like wormholing from plane to plane, realm to realm, existence to existence, whatever you want to call it. If you roll the dice enough times, and in this case, they rolled the dice once and they landed in the actual hell. So it's like another Earth, but everyone's just like torturing each other here. Like everyone's going crazy and kind of torturing themselves. That seems to be part of it too. And honestly, like it goes so far as to show like people being flayed. I think there's children being tortured. I'm sure there's rape happening in the background. There's fire everywhere. Like if you've seen the South Park with the animals that like have the orgy and then like sacrifice one of them.
Yes.
It is. It's very similar to that.
Woodland critter, Chris.
I literally had that exact same note, Josh. Blood orgy from South Park.
It is. It's terrible.
But like the physical manifestation of hell, like or like the hallucinations that they have on the event horizon, the ship itself, are like personalized to them, right? Like the one lady sees her kid who has health issues with like rotting legs, right? And Laurence Fishburne has his whole like flashback of the guy who he let. What happens to that guy? Like he burns with like
there's only 4 pods and there was 5 and he let the other guy burn to death.
I'm telling you, it was his voice I heard. He was calling to me. A young bosun named Eddie Corrick. We served on the Goliath together. When the O2 tanks ruptured, 4 of us made it to the lifeboat, but Corrick was still on board the Goliath when the fire broke out. You ever seen fire in zero gravity? It's beautiful. It's like liquid. It slides all over everything. Comes up in waves. And they just kept hitting him. Wave after wave. He was screaming for me to save him.
What did you do?
I did the only thing I could. I closed the lifeboat hatch and I left him behind. I swore I'd never lose another man.
Is that true with fire? Is that really how fire is in zero gravity?
I have
It's
no
like
idea.
waves and it's beautiful.
I have a question for you guys. If that happened to you, there's these beautiful flames burning like your crewmate to death. He's calling for your help. Like, what do you actually do physically?
Get in the pod.
No, I know. I think we're all under the assumption you have to do the right thing. 4 people survive. You got to leave somebody behind. But do you just put your eyes at the glass and like watch him? Do you try to like mouth, it's going to be okay? Do you like bury your head in the sand? Like, what are you actually doing for real if this is happening?
Is time of the essence? Like, do I have to get off this ship quickly?
It's like you're just waiting for the pod to release and he's there burning to death and you can either look in the window or not.
I'm the captain. I'm Laurence Fishburne in this.
Yeah.
You got to look, right? You got to be there for him. You got to put your little hand up to the glass and be like, I got you.
That seems that seems patronizing.
You got just
hand
like
up to the glass.
Oh, you're going to put your hand out? I'm on fire, you ass.
Fine, I'll stare at my feet. I'll look away.
Yeah, that's what you should be doing. Just look away.
We brought up Derbs and his, what is that movie called? Paradise?
Return to Paradise.
Yeah, isn't like the whole point of that movie is like Joaquin before he's executed, it's like he's appreciates that he's seen or something by Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn's there.
He's like, I see you, brother. And Joaquin Phoenix stops like horrifyingly screaming.
Lewis!
You fucking bastard! Still alive!
These are 2 pretty scary movies we're talking about. Scarring.
So fire in Zero Gravity is really pretty.
Are there videos of it? Like real?
Yeah, you got a link?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's really pretty.
Send that.
Would it hit you like waves? Do you think?
It looks orbish. It almost looks like sometimes like snaky, if that makes sense. Like it kind of bends and moves like a snake. It's really neat.
Do you wish that this ship would have like lost gravity again at some point? Because I got so excited, Stevie, because that's almost like a Dead Space element too, like where sometimes they can like jump from wall to wall in Dead Space. Like they really abandoned the zero gravity on the event horizon way too fast,
really quickly.
And didn't bring it back.
Like when you see like ecto and like coolant like floating, see the hand floating through and like a body moving around, you're like, oh my god, like, you know, this could be like some cool stuff going on here. And they abandoned it.
Now, don't get me wrong, seeing the frozen body like fall to the ground and shatter, that was pretty cool. I did like that.
Sub-Zero wins.
Yeah, exactly. Fatality.
I mean, wouldn't it have just worked better if Sam Neill saw himself floating through that hall, and when someone hits a zero gravity button, it like shatters and like goes into a million pieces, and he's like dealing with that the rest of the movie before he loses his mind?
I think it would have been way better if it looped. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like the ending of this movie, to be totally honest. Like, it doesn't do a lot for me.
It loops again. It's the same
Does
thing.
hell keep expanding after this? Like, is hell the actual ooze? You know what I mean? Or is it like through that portal? And so now the ship is hell?
It's the entire ship. It's the entire ship.
So it's like Justin going to be okay?
Is it though?
Yes. It's literally explained in the beginning where she's like looking for biological readings and she's scanning the entire ship, and the entire ship comes up as alive. And she's like, it's not working right. Something's really funky going on. I don't get it. Like, you can blow up half of it, but it's just half of it. The other half is still like, hey, we're rocking and rolling down here in Hades. Let's keep it going.
So the ship like possesses people, basically. But it also can create...
The ship got possessed, and now the ship is alive, and now kills people for fun.
How does Sam Neill get his eyes back? He gouges he gouges his eyes out and he gets them back. What's up with that?
Dude, I think that was a quick fixer-upper if I've ever seen one in my life.
No.
I think there was a whoopsie in production, and they had to throw that line, the ship brought me back. Like, that to me seems like a quick fixer-upper if I've ever seen one.
His eyes got medicine, my lord.
Say what you will about hell, but the optometry care is all free there. Fix your eyes right up. No cost.
Can you guys explain something to me? I want to know this.
You try.
Because I'm still trying to like wrap my brain around the movie kind of for all this time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene at the end where Larry Fishburne and Sam Neill are having a fist fight with the worst punch sound effects you'll ever hear in a movie. I mean, it sounds like bad. And like Sam Neill grabs Larry by the head and starts showing him visions. And Laurence Fishburne's like, they're not dead. And can you guys explain that to me? I don't get it. Like what's going on there?
Laurence Fishburne says they're not dead?
Yeah, he's like, they're not dead. And Sam Neill's like, no, they're not. But they're going to be like in hell with me or something. I don't get it. Because he's showing him visions of people getting tortured left and right.
Is like the other crew members? Like
yeah, the other crew members, yeah.
So if one of them they show is like Justin, the youngest member on the crew,
right,
and he shows them a vision of Justin getting tortured in hell, Laurence Fishburne is basically saying that's fake shit, no cap.
Right. No, total cap. But
right. Yeah.
No, yeah, then yeah, Devil's like, yes, cap.
So when I'm watching the montage again, Stevie, like I can't make out who's who in that. Like I see Laurence Fishburne saying they're not dead. But like I couldn't tell who that was as it was happening. I mean, I would assume that he's talking about.
I think Jason Isaacs has like a pole through his like throat or something.
It's all too fast though. Like all of those, like I don't know. It's like happening way too fast. It's like, and they're all like got like weird makeup on too. So it's like even watching it back now, it's tough to tell who's who. And I don't see Cooper in there. And Cooper's one of the ones who's not dead, which that's a weird character, right? Like I feel like his like opening, like kind of like come on line to Peters, where he's like, "Do you want something hot and black inside of you?" Like that's it's a little bit of sexual harassment. You know what I mean? Like I'm surprised that he made it. You know, like watching a movie now, like he would not be the kind of character who makes it to the end after saying that.
It's locker room talk, Pap. It's just locker room talk. I mean, it's not like he's running for president or anything.
I think we're officially at the most rewound part on the YouTube video, Pappy.
Wait, is yours at 102?
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't you just basically describe it? Like they're showing people getting tortured left and right. Like the first time they show torture is when they unscramble the TV signal they got from the like log book or something.
And this is the most replayed part. Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, me and Pappy's sick minds also both replayed it because we're terrible people, apparently.
I've watched this YouTube video a million times.
It's wild that like while they're watching this too, we should mention that like in the background of the ship, there's like a skull sealed to the wall with like blood and flesh. They're just, that's like the environment that they're in as they're watching this.
That is
it's
very
like someone like tried
like
using like intestines and blood and flesh as like soil on the walls. It's kind
it
of
looks like Dead Space, Stevie. You know what I mean? Like those are the kind of things you see in like the corners of a room
like
in Dead Space. But
hey, Josh, just so you know, Pappy absolutely hated playing Dead Space.
It's so scary. I don't like scary video games. I can't. That's too much. Like, do you like them, Josh?
Wait, do I like what?
Scary video games? Like a jump scare video game?
No. Like Gears of War is like the scariest I get. It's not that scary. I understand people finding them super entertaining. I get it. But man, I can't deal with it. My poor heart, you know?
Not when I'm by myself. That's way too much.
Since democracy has decided that this is the most rewindable, replayable part. Do you want to walk through some of this frame by frame? What happens in the hellscape that they see? Because this is like a preview into what hell is, right?
Shit. Need coffee?
Yeah, it is cold.
Great. Stuck.
Oh. Miller?
The first thing is the captions say woman screaming, and it's somebody with a bunch of blood on their face screaming. The next one is a man being held down, and it looks like his poor little intestines are being ripped out. Number 3 is a person. He looks like he's at the command center of the ship, but he or she or they are being bent right over that command center table. Something bad's happening. The next one is a guy either putting his own fist or someone else shoving their fist deep into his esophagus.
Oh my god.
It's very disturbing. And then this is probably the last one I'll do. I don't know how many more there are. There's like guy kind of getting his face ripped off, and then like a pike gets shoved through the back of his head. There's a couple more things with like eyeballs, but that's what people on YouTube like to rewind, and what Pappy like to rewind.
What's happening with the woman screaming in this frame here? The first one, it's wild.
I was gonna say the guy with the eyeballs looks like
Jason Isaacs.
Pan's Labyrinth. You know, the guy who holds his eyeballs. That's kind of the vibes that I got. So is this the Christian hell? Like, is this like literally like that hell, you think? Or is this just like another dimension where it's like the upside down, where like good is bad type thing?
Dude, if you're speaking Latin,
ooh, good point.
That's pretty Catholic hell, bro. I mean,
the Latin does make it seem more, religious, spooky.
Oh my god, that dude's missing all of his teeth, and then he has an entire arm going through his mouth. Good god.
I was just gonna say the gnashing of teeth is a part of the Christian hell as well. Do you have any arguments against that, Pappy? I don't know.
No, I mean it seems to be. I would just say like the only thing would be is no one on the crew is bad. You know what I mean? Like even in like Aliens, like the Marines are kind of like rough around the edges or like mean to each other. Like there's no one like in a slasher movie like the person who has sex dies. You know what I mean? There's none of that. Like all these seem like pretty good people. Like even the ones who end up dying, like the mom who has the terminally ill kid, like she seems super nice, and her death is fucking insane. Like she like falls on a spike or something. Like I don't even know. It's horrific.
The only thing I didn't like about that scene at all was like it's one thing to show her like fall through the hole, like chasing after her kid, but then the camera pans back up at the kid. Like he's been there the entire time and shows him walking away.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
He like smirks.
He like smirks like we're like, oh, there's the villain. He got away again. And it's like, no, he's not there.
I don't know. You know what I mean though, Josh? It's like no one, if it is hell, it's like none of these people deserve what's happening to them, which I find interesting. That's why I'm saying like Cooper kind of like sexually harasses this woman and he's one of the ones who ends up living to the end. It's just surprising.
Well, kind of living.
Isn't that like the lesson of the movie? It's like man's expansion into science fraught, right? Like, can't control everything we do, everything we create. Like, we have to be wary of. And so I think the idea is, like, if they would have just stuck to Earth, they could have, like, lived normal lives. And
Sam Neill just had to do those movies where scientists were dabbling in things they shouldn't have been dabbling in.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene where he's describing the space-time wormhole is a lot like when he's describing in Jurassic Park about the turkeys that are really scary. Hits a lot of the same beats.
All right. Well, maybe dinosaurs have more in common with present-day birds than they do with reptiles.
Look at the pubic bone, turned backward, just like a bird. Look at the vertebrae, full of air sacs and hollows, just like a bird.
And even the word raptor means bird of prey.
That doesn't look very scary. More like a 6-foot turkey.
Turkey. Relativity, yes, we can't break the law of relativity. We can go around it. The ship doesn't really go faster than light. What it does is it creates a dimensional gateway that allows it to jump instantaneously from one point of the universe to another light years away.
How?
Well, it's difficult to... It's all math.
Try us, Doctor.
Right, well, using layman's terms, try to imagine yourself in the Cretaceous period. You get your first look at this 6-foot turkey as you enter a clearing. He moves like a bird, lightly bobbing his head. And you keep still because you think that maybe his visual acuity is based on movement, like T-Rex. And he'll lose you if you don't move. But no, not Velociraptor. You stare at him, and he just stares right back. Until the space-time curvature becomes infinitely large and you produce a singularity. Now, the singularity...
Layman's terms.
Well, fuck layman's terms. Do you speak English?
Imagine for a minute that this piece of paper...
No, excuse me. That's Vanessa, and that's mine.
Attractive piece of paper represents space-time, and you want to get from point A here to point B there. Now, what's the shortest distance between 2 points?
A straight line.
Wrong. The shortest distance between 2 points is 0, and that's what the gateway does. It folds space so that point A and point B coexist in the same space and time. When the spacecraft passes through the gateway, space returns to normal. And that's when the attack comes, not from the front, but from the side. From the other 2 raptors, you didn't even know were there.
While we're on the Sam Neill, though, you brought this up pre-pod. The scene where he's like the bags scene, does that like freak you guys out? Seeing that, like seeing someone in a pool of blood, because I feel like it's trying to like, unironically be scary, and it's just weird. Like it felt like The Shining.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like when like the dog was giving the blowjob to the butler or something. It's like this weird sex mixed with violence. And I just don't know if I'm like there with this movie.
Well, I mean, it's like glorifying suicide, which is nice.
No, definitely not.
You know, it's not like one of those like Netflix shows that just has to go out of its way to glorify it. But
it's a big reveal in the movie, right? Like, cause like you're wondering, you see Sam Neill's wife the whole time.
You see what's her face? Yeah, Claire, I think is her name.
And I guess I'm just like, he's just like an 80s dad from a movie. You know what I mean? He worked too hard and neglected his family. It's like, I guess.
Yeah, and plus I think it's like one of those things too where it's supposed to be like horrifying to the main character. You know what I mean? Like not to us, but like to the main character. Kind of like reliving that all over again.
I think the movie is kind of trying to be artsy, especially in that moment. Like if it wanted to be gruesome, it could show like blood spurting. But it has this like really weird cut where it like shows the bathtub that's like red, like from kind of symmetrical angles from straight up top to bottom. You know what I mean? It's more like showing the shapes of it instead of like the gritty detail of it. It's kind of part of a dream sequence. But that doesn't stop them later from showing, and maybe Stevie, you can talk about this, somebody being hung by hooks. I'd imagine this is probably the worst thing for young Stevie to see, the hooks.
Well, I'll tell it this way. When old Stevie saw it in theaters, when he went to go see Midsommar, he wasn't appalled. So I guess you could say like I was kind of like desensitized by this movie. But yeah, young Stevie seeing, you know, Dr. Weir go all in on the arts and crafts section of the movie. And I don't know how the hell he had time to do this, but pretty much flayed Lucius Malfoy and hung him up by, what do you call it, steel wire?
Space hooks.
Space hooks, yeah. It was, that was kind of gruesome to see. I'll put it this way, though. The fact that, like, he wasn't breathing probably was, like, the best for young me. Just so, that was a little freaky seeing that in Midsommar, to see, like, people actually, like, breathing, being hung up by hooks and bled out that way. But
is there a shot like that in 7 too? Where someone's hung like that? Or am I making that up?
There's a shot like that in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the newer one.
There is?
Yeah, one of the guys like is hung up on his back for like a while on a hook, and I think his like legs are like cut off.
Oh yeah, Jessica Biel has to like carry him off, right?
No, I think she mercy kills him. She tries to get him off.
Oh really?
But can't, and she just like stabs him in the heart or something. I think right in. Beowulf probably knows.
Did Sam Neill take Malfoy's eyes? Is that how he gets eyes back?
Ooh.
Let's go with that.
That's disgusting.
Well, but how is he back though?
He's back.
He did fly out into space, dude.
It's the vibe. Like
that would work, Stevie. Like, if your whole hypothesis was true that this whole thing was like looping, then that would make perfect sense, right?
That would be amazing, Stevie. Honestly, like that would be so much better. Like
to like send a beacon to yourself.
Like they start the movie when they're coming out of stasis, and they're trying to figure out like what their mission is. Like, what's our mission again? Like, you know what I mean? That would be so amazing.
Yeah, that to me is a little stronger than just crew finds another crew finds another crew finds another crew. Like I get it, but I don't think it's great story wise. But if Sam Neill is gonna fly out of a cross into space, like just let it be. Let it the fuck be. If he's gonna come back, don't give him eyes. I mean, once again, Pap, I think there was a lot of whoopsies on the editing table of like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here?
The cross was very like, oh, I guess Sam Neill's the Christ-like character and the Satan-like character of this movie. But that definitely
is he the Christ-like character?
I don't know. Flying away on a cross.
He died for our sins, man. It's the vibe.
It's the vibe. Do you think though that like Cooper? Do you feel like that like Cooper's like? We should mention that Cooper, the guy who lives to the end, who like harassed the girl at the beginning, he's got this whole like comedic, like you know what I mean, like while all of the shit's like hitting the fan, he's kind of lightening the mood a little bit. You know what I mean, like trying to figure his own.
When he got shot, it was my favorite part of the whole movie. It just made me laugh so hard.
Which part? Like the fact that he got shot?
When he's like flying up on the window and he's oh shit, and Samuel just shoots him.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh so hard.
I don't know. I just feel like this movie is trying to be like super serious and scary at that point. I don't know. Like, did you like Cooper in this part, Josh? Like, I appreciate it because it's fun, but I feel like this movie is, I don't know, trying to be really scary. And it's kind of undercutting that part.
I think you're right, but for me, I appreciated the undercutting because
Same.
I don't want to be scared, so it's nice to have that break. And further, I would say my expectation was not that he would live to the end. In fact, both of the two that lived at the end, I thought were going to be the first two to die. If I were making Vegas bets about 10, 15 minutes into the film.
We got Cooper, who's the comic relief. And at least he's a character, right? Like, he's got, like, personality. I can't tell you shit about the other one. Like, what's her name? Peters? Is that her?
Stark?
I think so.
Like, describe Peters without describing the way she looks. Do the Mr. Plinkett test.
Can't do
Tell
it.
me one thing about Peters as a character.
She wears a hat.
It's Stark that lives to the end, by the way.
Stark? I don't even know her name.
And she looks a lot like Laura Dern.
Dude, young me thought that was Laura Dern.
Because of Sam Neill?
Yeah.
You're right. Peters as the kid. Stark lives to the end. But, like, yeah, Stark's like a non-character. Like,
are there, like, any well-written, like, female characters in this movie at all?
There's not many female characters. I mean, I like the...
There's 3.
I like the Peters one. The one who has the son.
Like, it's kind of pathetic, though, I mean, it's not pathetic because I'm sure, like, it's happened, but, like, Sam Neill's like, his wife's entire arc is, he doesn't pay enough attention to her, so she kills herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, one of them, I think it's Peters, is a terminally ill kid, and that's what causes her death. Mm-hmm. And that's, like, all we ever know about her is, she's
divorced, and, like, they share custody.
And she's divorced.
Yeah. She seems caring.
Yeah.
She's like a nurse or doctor.
She's tough.
Well,
she sticks with her job no matter what. You know what I mean? She's getting freaked out by all this stuff.
And then there's Laura Dern Jr., or Diet Laura Dern, who is just like eye appeal for the movie. There's nothing.
She's the good looking one. There's nothing else to her.
Yeah, she's the good looking one. There's nothing else to her. It's shallow, to say the least.
All 3 of them are good looking, though.
No. That's true. But she's, like Stevie said.
She's the, what do you call what's the girl, the final girl? She's the final girl.
They give her a hat. So that way she has personality. She's the one in the hat.
And she looks smart. Yeah.
Dude, to be fair, we have been talking about how all of the characters in this and dialogue in this movie is a little bit flawed. And most of the men are hot, too. Let's be fair.
No, totally.
Both ways.
Yeah. I think, like you said, Josh, it's an amazing concept, but this movie does get tripped up in some of those details, like a little bit of the dialogue, the characters. I don't even say, like, it's hard to say, like, the pacing. I like that it's a slow roll, but, like, there's something still weird about, like, how long it takes to get going. Like, I don't know.
And not just that, but, like, if you're going to do a movie like this where it's slow roll, and you're not, like, I'm a big fan of dread movies, Pap, you know that? Like, I love dread. Like, if a movie tells me, like, I can tell from an instant this is a dread movie.
Great moment of dread when Sam Neill's, like, walking up to the swivel chair, in his dream, and it ends up being his wife. Like, that's building dread, like suspense, but they only do that kind of stuff once. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of that.
That's like the final frame in the first Dead Space game is going up to your dead wife. But, yeah, fun stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And my whole thing is you can't start a movie off with, like, scary music. Like this type of movie, you're gonna slow roll. You can't give it, like, super scary movie to begin with. Like, this is a scary movie. It's like, you really have to build that up with the story. You can't start off like that. Otherwise, it kind of deflates the entire purpose. All right, before we get into yes or no, do you guys have any final thoughts?
Did you like the look of the final version of Sam Neill? When he's naked and got all of the cuts all over his body?
I'd have liked it if he didn't have eyes.
Never seen Sam Neill like that, though. Like, I don't know. You think he's a good bad guy? I thought
he's a fantastic bad guy.
I thought he was okay, yeah.
I thought he was a fantastic bad guy, and, like, I know we kind of, like, shit on, like, the suicide scene. Not shit on it, but, like, could have been done better. But I'm a big fan of, like, the outcut of, like, going right to Sam Neill gouging his eyes out. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. I thought that was, like, a smart, like, pairing. You're going to go for something that's, like, not elegant, but kind of clean looking and, symmetrical. Just the chaos of Sam Neill gouging his eyes out. I thought that was a smart decision.
My last note is that I just think this is a better Christian movie than Kirk Cameron's Fireproof could ever hope to be. You want fire and brimstone? Got it, mister.
Is that the one where, he almost dies because he's, by the railroad?
No, it's the one where... maybe you're right. But basically,
I think there's a buddy that almost dies next to him, and they're by the railroad. It's something gets deflected, and they hit a helmet. It's and is that the one where he writes letters to his wife or something?
No, this movie he is a
or his wife has an affair or something.
Nope. He's just a fireman who watches porn sometimes.
Good God.
Wait, really?
Future spoilers.
Does he go to hell for that?
And it's not just a word, it's a reality. And I will show you.
What the Sam Neill line where I think Laurence Fishburne's I forget, he's berating Sam Neill, yelling at him, they're at odds at this point. He's we gotta get home, blah blah blah. And Sam Neill goes, I'm already home. And slinks back into the shadows.
Homer Simpson's.
Dude, what a great scene. What a great scene.
It's so good.
Or just the idea that someone could remove an explosive and put it on the other ship without anybody noticing is hysterical.
It's
I don't think those things are probably easy to diffuse and disarm and carry. Someone would probably see that or hear it.
It's just got a switch that you can flip on it from detonated remotely to you can just program in a time and drop it off. What was the line that you said earlier though, Stevie? The one that you really liked? It's where we're
going, we don't need eyes to see.
That's good.
Do you guys kind of think, and I'm glad I waited till the very end of the pod to bring this up, that maybe as much as we don't like this person, Kevin Spacey might have been the perfect casting for this Sam Neill character?
Dr. Weir?
Yeah.
110%.
I literally thought that too. Yeah.
Backing into the shadows, him with the no eyes, him being bald, all that weird shit just seems to fit him that more. And him being Satan.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kurt Russell turned down Dr. Weir.
I gotta be honest, I don't know if this is Sam Neill's best. The movies that we've done with Sam Neill on this pod, what? Hunt for the Wilder People?
Hick.
Jurassic Park, obviously. Other than the new Jurassic Park, the new one, I feel this is the worst one I've seen him in. You're right, Josh. I feel a Kevin Spacey, someone a little bit more creepy. You know what I mean?
What about Hugo Weaving?
Oof.
Matrix connection?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was thinking even Anthony Hopkins or something. He would have been too old, but that kind of vibe. Brian Cox in Manhunter vibe.
That would have given us 2 scenes in cinema history where Hugo Weaving grabs Laurence Fishburne by the head and on his deathbed with Laurence Fishburne just shaking and vibing out to it.
I am inevitable.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving would have been amazing.
All right, let's go into yes or no's. Josh, start us off.
Hello, this is Josh from Goshen, and I will give Event Horizon a yes.
Let's go.
Honestly, I feel like I've talked a lot during this pod. It's all been laid out on the table. I think to show hell in a realistic way and be so brutal about it is pretty crazy and gross, but interesting. It's going to stick with me for a while, for better, for worse. But it kind of scares the living shit out of you, like any good Christian media should do. So, I don't know. I just enjoyed it. A lot of the editing made it not as scary as I think it could have been. Kind of goes by in a flash, but it's just a fun movie. I'll give it a yes.
This is Pappy. I'll also give it a pretty solid yes. It's not a perfect movie, but I find this to be a very enjoyable movie to watch, despite how, like, scary some of the themes are and how gruesome some of the imagery is. I think, like, some of the gruesome imagery is kind of, like, awesome. It's kind of cool when you're seeing it. And it feels like a classic sci-fi story in a lot of ways. Like I said, like some of the details, like some of the dialogue trips up. Like I think there's like probably too many crew members, or like we're trying to keep track of too many crew members for too long. But there's something like, I don't know, kind of elegant about the story of like they just kind of opened up hell and it's the descent into madness. Like I don't know, it feels very just like a classic sci-fi story that you would have to read in like high school or something. I will say though, like the movie that Stevie pitched, this is a loop and they're already stuck in hell. And this is just part of hell. That would be like a hard yes movie. But I really enjoyed Event Horizon, Derbs. Glad you brought it up randomly in our DMs.
Derbs.
And you know what? We shit on it, but I thought the Adam Sandler Comedy Albums podcast, it's pretty good. There's a lot of work. It's like a 3-hour pod. I enjoyed it, but solid yes for Event Horizon.
Awesome. I will also give us a pretty solid yes. As the holiest man on the podcast.
Ooh, fighting words for Josh.
No, Brett's the one that hates to hear it. He's like, I have more sacraments than you.
I have more, okay, and I doubt that he was at mass. I doubt he was at mass this past Wednesday during lunch. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, this movie does like scare the living shit out of me. Just kind of the concept of it freaks me the hell out. And this movie to me is almost like, could you imagine if like this was made today? Like what we could get out of it if we were in good hands. Like give me just a 10 episode HBO series of Event fucking Horizon. Like I don't care how much it would cost, but god damn would that be a masterpiece. Just one season.
You guys call, I don't want to interrupt your yes or no, Stevie. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just think you called this movie a slow roll with that. I think if there's 10 episodes in HBO, there's like a little hint in episode 1, but hell isn't even like thought of until like 7 or 8.
Episode 8.
Yeah.
7 or 8. Yeah, it's way down the line. Like that to me is like, that's dream stuff right there. Like give me 10 episodes of Event Horizon because there's so much meat here, but there's like, you can't eat it all in, an hour and 37 minutes. You just can't. You need to really space this stuff out. Like there's a lot of meat and bones here. Like there's a lot here. There's a lot to work with. And I think even if you call it, it is, kind of trite, like Shining in Space, cool. With good hands, like great directors, especially television directors, put Mazin in the chair as writer or showrunner, and then give us, at least 2 great actors. You could really have something cooking there. You got a stew going at that point. But I love the production of this movie a shit ton, especially when Sam Neill's crawling through the green corridors.
Oh, yeah. That's so good.
The green-lit vents. I mean, as much as like you want to take, like, kind of knock on this movie, I promise you, I could name at least one movie that took directly from that scene, and it's like what it looks like. And it's just fun to watch. It's fun to look at. And Josh, I'm kind of with you, just the high concept of going to the outer realms of space and finding actual, Latin Catholic hell is kind of terrifying. It's a great idea. Is it the greatest? Was this movie done the greatest? No, but I just love the concepts. And it's a 90s movie that I hold near and dear to my heart. So I'll give this a solid yes.
Had you seen this in between being a young child? And
yes. Yeah, I watched it about 7 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I went back to it just because, I do love space travel. I do like the idea of that. And plus, kind of the abstract thought of, creating your own black holes, like artificial, your own artificial black holes it's pretty gosh darn funny.
But we are doing that currently with the Higgs boson particle. Like,
are we actually creating black holes?
They're like they're super tiny black holes that just like last for an instant and dissipate.
And they're studying them.
Yep, that's a big part of what the Hadron Collider is. I think that's what it's called.
Hadron? Hell?
The Hadron. Dude, what is the Latin that he says? It's so freaky. It's like desperat. It's so terrifying. Damn it.
Dude, Latin is nothing to like mess around with.
Can I give you guys a vibe check, Stevie?
Sure.
Say it's 1997 and you are like a 27-year-old Elkhart RV guy with a convertible. It's like 70 degrees out, top down, and you think, movie would be nice. You don't even have a cell phone or anything. You just pull into Encore, and you're like, oh, Event Horizon. You see a guy in a spacesuit, and you go into this movie.
Sounds pretty cool.
But, oh my gosh, could you imagine getting treated to Event Horizon at that space and time? It's quite frankly amazing sounding.
So here's the thing. It's got like a 6.6 on IMDb. It's got a 35 Metascore. Like, I feel like Event Horizon was it universal? Like, how did critics take Event Horizon? Stevie, do you know? I can do some Googling.
Oh, it was lambasted. Dude. No one liked Event Horizon.
Yeah, like I feel like we like to be a preserved movie is like outside of the norm.
I think this is a cult movie.
Yeah.
I think like this movie does have a cult following. Just because, I mean, like, I even brought this up on, on Sunshine, where I think it was Corey who asked me, what's the most important thing to you in a sci-fi movie? And to me, it's always going to be cinematography. Like, and that's like the winning part of this movie, in my opinion, is the cinematography of this movie outside of the, rotating grid ship.
To me, it's that I would be so itchy if I wouldn't be able to like talk to you guys about this movie after I've seen it. You know what I mean? Like, I had to talk to friends or decompress about this movie. And I think that's a good sign of a good sci-fi movie, is that you just got these like thoughts going through your brain that you need to process or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, what a great way to start off a movie with, the entire cast and crew, because he doesn't want to do that. But how about turning that black hole into an eyeball? Was that not great?
At the end?
No, at the beginning.
You might have.
You not notice that?
Explain, sir.
So, like, at the very beginning of this movie, 1 second here.
I'm watching it back too. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find it.
It forms into what appears to be an eyeball.
So the Paramount Mountain That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
The Paramount, it shows the mountain, and instead of like a cut, it like pans to the stars. So it's like a continuous thing. Which is pretty cool.
Do you see what I'm saying, Pap, about the eyeball?
I see like it looks like an eyeball a little bit. Yeah, and like the hallway is kind of like an eyeball too. Now that I'm looking at it.
And plus, like that giant like gravity sphere looks like an eyeball, and they transition to it. That gravity like wave sphere that kind of looks like the iris in the eye at one point. It's
I got you.
Pretty like something's like watching us type.
Then it goes from the guy screaming's mouth to Sam Neill's eyeball too, like. To bring us back there. So, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Kind of like something's watching over us that's bigger than us type deal. Satan, perhaps.
I'm glad we gave Paul regular Anderson 3 yeses. Do you want me to do a trivia, Stevie? Because I have one ready.
I do. Ooh. Please do.
This is a trivia like no other ever. Last time I said that we did D&D. It's nothing like that. This movie is basically about hell, and we all know about Dante's hell. Your job is to tell me what the number is. If you, so you know how there's 9 circles of hell. Let's start from the beginning.
Correct.
Right. I'm gonna give you 2 different circles, and the numeric value of each you must multiply against each other, and that's the number for the win.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I used to know these so well. Yes.
So, lust and violence. And Stevie, since you're the holiest on the pod, do you want to go first or second? I'll just give you the option.
So I am multiplying lust
times violence. I should have just said that at the beginning.
Buddy.
And like,
can I go second?
Yes. And I think right now you guys should say, it's up to you. Do you just want to say number or show your work a little bit?
I'll say number, but I'll explain it after. I don't want to give it away.
Fair enough.
I'm going to say 24.
Okay. 20. Stevie.
I don't think it's that high because I think lust was kind of low. And plus, like, Josh, in Inferno, there's like rings with inside like the circles, right?
There's like contos.
There's like rings. Yeah, there's like rings inside the circles.
Sub-rings.
Yeah, there's like sub-rings within them. And you gotta remember, like, this was kind of like a political book where Dante was just throwing people he fucking hated in there. And like those people like were alive. It was kind of hysterical.
Like what? Like what do you mean? Who did he hate?
Like mayors that he thought were like full of shit, or like other writers that he was like rivals with.
He's like in there getting their head devoured by a different journalist or something.
Oh yeah, or they were like in like the river of Styx, like getting drowned, or like in the pond of pitch.
Was Dante like a lusty
like
guy?
that.
Is he like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal, you know? Yeah, it's a first ring.
Hey, yeah. No, so I know violence is not the highest, and I know lust is like near the bottom. So 18? I think lust was 3rd, and I think violence was 6, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
How would you show your math, Pat?
I was gonna do like, I think they were both pretty bad. I think the deepest one, there's 7 circles, right?
Yeah.
9?
Or yeah, 9.
The 9? I thought 9 was like for traitors or something like that.
Treachery. Yeah. 9's
so
treachery.
I thought just like two middling ones. You know what I mean? Like violence might be like 5, 6, 7, and lust might be like 5, 6 in there.
See, I have lust at 3 and violence at 6, but
violence is pretty bad.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I don't think it was like the worst.
So 1,
I think suicide was 5, maybe. I can't remember.
There's a lot of circles of hell in this.
1 is limbo.
Yeah.
And that's almost just like almost like purgatory, but a little worse or something.
Limbo is just like being at the airport waiting to get on your plane. That's
That's really bad though. But Stevie, treachery, you're right, is the 9th. And I'm not trying to drag the pot on, but do you understand like what exactly is treachery? It's like sins against God, but like what does that even really mean?
Like Judas, right? That's
like you have to betray Jesus in the flesh personally to be sent to the 9th.
Listen, it's a very customized circle.
Dude. Satan follows 5 people. And it's Judas, never mind. Judas and 4 other people.
So what's the answer, Josh?
No, Stevie, I don't know. I'm asking you, man. Treachery, what the hell is it?
Oh, what is treachery?
Yeah, what does it mean in the case of Dante?
I always thought it was like the ultimate betrayal. So I just remember reading this. I think I read it twice. And that's like the frozen lake where Satan is upside down, right?
It's like some anti-gravity thing when they get to Satan, right?
So I always thought that like
selling out someone.
Treachery. I always thought treachery exactly is selling out like your best friends or the ones that you hold like nearest and dear. Like that's like the ultimate treachery is like severing those bonds.
Like you're so bad that you would treat your enemies poorly, but you would also treat your most loved poorly too.
Worse. You treat your most loved worse.
Yeah, especially if it came down to like you versus them. That's like
yes.
Okay. Well,
it'd be like me selling like Pappy down the road. It'd be awful. Like that would go to like the worst circle of hell possible.
Dude,
never in a million years, but that's what it would be like.
That came up on the Sunshine Pod. If you guys want to check
no, I remember
out.
that. There was a whole like, how would you murder Pappy was the opening question or something like that.
And I said I wouldn't.
Anyway, the trivia. Violence is actually the 7th ring of hell. It's pretty high up there.
Not great.
Treachery is 9. Fraud is 8. And I think
fraud
that gets to the political stuff. Isn't that kind of what...
Well, it's a little political, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Heresy is 6. Wrath is...
Heresy should be 9 in my opinion, but...
Wrath is 5th. Greed is 4th. It's hard to believe that we're going down in bad things, but gluttony is 3rd, which brings us finally to lust, just 1 circle above limbo. 2 times 7 is 14. 18 is the winning number, Stevie. You get to toss it out to Spoiler Man, get the hot take. You hosted this pod anyway. Just round it out for us, man.
Yeah, so hot take. I really don't want to make it religious because there's a lot I could say. But I won't. You know, I brought this up on a pod earlier, but I think Last of Us has turned out to be better than I even thought it could have been. Just an amazing show watching Pedro Pascal. And I always forget that girl's name who plays Ellie, but she's a fantastic actress. And Craig Mazin.
This was a Sunshine Pod that you talked about this.
What's that? Oh, I know.
So this makes this the true successor of the Sunshine Podcast, Event Horizon.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'll bring this up again in another pod when I get a chance. Yeah, just an amazing show. It's really fun to watch. I kind of got a little bit of anxiety thinking how they're going to end it because they don't have a lot of time. So hopefully they can figure out a smart way to do that. But hats off to Craig Mazin to go from superhero movie to writing like 2 of probably one of the most well-written shows HBO's ever produced. So, yeah, cannot wait for this to end. And it got renewed for a season 2, which will probably end up being 2 to 3 seasons because it's huge. And yeah, if you haven't already, check out The Last of Us. It's amazing. Right, Pat?
Great show. We're going to do a podcast on it for sure. I would hope.
We will do a podcast on it. Other than that, I just want to say thank you for listening to this podcast. If you haven't watched Event Horizon, please do. It's As I said, not the best movie, but it looks pretty. It's a fun movie to think about. And I can only hope this gets remade into a miniseries at some point. But check that out. And thank you for listening. That was Spoilers.
Special thank you to our patrons.
Spencer.
Matt Troll.
Need coffee?
Nick.
Yeah, it is cold.
Brother Brian.
It's liberate, tute me. Save yourself.
The Meg. Nurse Stacy.
About an hour ago, I saw my son.
Gail. The Wolf.
Ship doesn't really go faster than light. What it does is it creates a dimensional gateway that allows it to jump instantaneously from one point of the universe to another light years away.
Barky 420.
This is not something that's in our heads.
Davey Kerr.
You ever seen fire in zero gravity?
Total Movie Recall.
He was screaming for me to save him.
PK.
They're not dead.
Druid King.
No, I haven't seen anything and I don't need to see anything, sir, but I can tell you. This ship is fucked.
I really wanted to bring up the most recent Joe Rogan podcast.
Which one?
It's literally the most recent. Eric Weinstein.
Is he the university guy who sued?
The guy got canceled.
Yeah, for throwing a fit about, yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Josh.
Dark web.
Yeah.
Throwing a fit about what?
This campus had like a African American students didn't have to like go to class. I forget what day it was. And he was pretty much gonna like give them like all absences in his classes and like threw a fit at the board. Then I got on social media and
Didn't bring that up at all.
And he got canceled and he ended up getting fired. And then he sued the university and won.
Then he got on Joe Rogan and got like famous.
Mm-hmm.
He actually at Harvard was because he wrote an equation that they said didn't adhere to like the laws of physics as they saw fit at that time. And that may be a separate incident, but they didn't get into this like racial thing at all, except he talked about Kanye a lot because him and Kanye hang out.
Weinstein or Rogan?
No, Weinstein.
Was he defending Kanye?
Dude, check this out. So a lot of like it really sucks you in. Like listening to him talk, he's obviously pretty brilliant, knows a lot about physics and like geometry and mathematics. And he goes into this thing about how basically his point of view and a lot of other scientists' point of view now is that since, quote, the world is content playing footsie with nuclear weapons and Putin, that the old rules of science where you're kind of holding back because you don't want to like discover and release something that could be like harmful to humanity is like kind of gone. What? So he's like, so what ties into this movie Event Horizon is he goes into an analogy, like, you know, the whole like paper thing where you like poke the two holes in, that whole shit. He talks about it as in physics, the like life we're living and experiencing is like the music we're hearing out of a record player. And like the speaker is like the projection of that. And that's like typically like what we think of as like light and not gravity, but like light and like all the okay. The music is like life because it like it has a beginning and an end and there's like, it's rotating, right?
And the speaker itself is like the projections that we can currently kind of measure, like light and time and space. And the stylus, which is like the pen
needle
tool or whatever, the needle, is like he speculates that is gravity, and that if some of his theories and some of their current scientist theories are expounded upon, we can actually access the record itself. And at that point, like traveling and using like Einstein's equations around relativity, you can bypass them, which is again kind of like said in this movie, like we go around relativity or whatever, I think Sam Neill says. So
it's kind of a stupid thought, because like relativity is something more than just gravitational waves in space.
What do you mean?
Like relativity is nothing more.
He was trying to explain it to
I
Joe
understand
Rogan,
what he's saying. Yeah, and Joe Rogan is like a dumb hyena, so teaching that man anything is just insane. But that is kind of a cool thought. Pap, have you seen that Kill Tony where Joe Rogan looks like he just wants to walk off stage?
No, I haven't watched any of the recent ones. Is it an
Freddie
old one?
Gibbs gets up there, who's like an actual comedian, and Joe Rogan like is sitting there in his stupid Irish bowler hat that he wears like a fucking idiot. People who wear that deserve to get like kicked in the dick like repeatedly. If you wear a bowler hat, like I just don't see how anybody can be friends with you. And like he's wearing a stupid bowler hat and a shirt that's 2 times too small. And Freddie Gibbs is up there and he's like, "Hey, Joe Rogan, remember when you said that all black people were apes?" And he started bringing up like all the racial stuff that Joe Rogan would said throughout the years. And Joe just looks down and was like, "Hey, let's just drop it, man. Hey, like that was a long time ago. Hey, let's just drop it." And he like starts to like laugh like under his breath. He like starts to like laugh under his breath, but you can tell like he just wants to get out of there so badly. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Let me tell you the conclusion to this Eric Weinstein thing.
Please.
He thinks he's Jewish, Weinstein. He
Right.
thinks it's his duty and the Jews' duty as a people to get humans off of planet Earth and amongst the stars, basically, because in part because of like ancient scripts, but also in part because like if you look at who discovered the technology and everything that led to like the nuclear bomb, like Jews
They're
are
Jewish?
responsible. Yeah, this is him saying this as a Jew, and that now since like Jews have discovered that, they've made Earth a ticking time bomb, and so necessarily humans have to get off, and it has to be like the second Passover, like Jews guiding civilization off the Earth. It's pretty fucking nuts.
He sounds, that sounds stable.
Are you still recording on this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Dude, that is what he says, though. If you listen all the way to the end of the podcast.
What is... Yeah. All right.
I'm going to go to bed, fellas.
Yeah, see you guys later.
Bye. Bye-bye.
That was spoilers.